Hey guys, it's the Dutch Sims 4 Master and welcome to this brand new The Sims 4 speed build. So today I'm back in The Sims 4 building an around the world speed build, and today I'm actually building a house from the entire other side of the world, from my perspective, New Zealand. And yeah, if you are currently watching this, you've survived the drought of videos of the past 3 weeks, because I've been to New Zealand the past 3 weeks. I've actually come back last week already, so yeah, I left like 4 weeks ago and I came back 1 week ago, because I spent like around 1 week creating this house, because of course often whenever I go to a country I want to create a video from that specific country, and in this case it was New Zealand. So I thought, I'm going to build a New Zealand house. And I actually also noticed that I got quite some viewers from New Zealand, so I thought, that's quite a good idea. So that's what I did. So in this video I'll be talking a lot about the trip, but if you want to know more about the trip, just check on my Instagram. It's at DutchSims4Master. You'll just see the link in the first line or somewhere in the description. Then you see some pictures of my trip and you read some more stories as well, because man, that trip was awesome. But first I'll talk about the house a little bit, or generally houses in New Zealand, because now I've been there, I know what houses in New Zealand look like, and it was kind of like I expected, but a little bit different. So I'll talk about that. This is a one-level house, as you can see, which is typical in New Zealand. And yes, not every house in New Zealand is one level. I know that because I've been there. So don't worry, not every house in New Zealand is one level. And don't worry, because I do actually know about that. But most houses actually are, simply because they've got a lot of space in New Zealand. I mean, 4 million people in a country that's 5 times the size of my own country, where there live 5 times more people than there live in New Zealand, which is crazy. So yeah, they have got quite some space to build houses on. So yeah, therefore they are often just one level. Often the lots which they are built on are pretty big as well, so they've got quite big gardens. But of course it really depends on where you live. I've been to the North Island, mainly around Auckland and its surrounding areas. I'll talk about that a little bit more later on in this video, what I've seen, what I've done, and what I thought of the country. It was awesome. But yeah, like I said, this is not a house which you only see in New Zealand, but a type of house which you see a lot in New Zealand. It's kind of the suburban house, which is just, yeah, something typical for New Zealand. I think also for Australia, because the Australians might be kind of mad right now that I'm not building a house from their country, because I must say, before I went to New Zealand, Australia was like my favorite country in the world. And I think it's really hard to decide between New Zealand and Australia, because they're so similar but also so different. So I must say I can't decide, but I must say New Zealand and Australia are both really cool countries in my opinion. So yeah, I've been to both of them and they really are cool. So if you want to ever go to a really cool country, just go to that side of the world and visit both of them, because then you can decide for yourself which one you like best. But anyways, it's a 2-bedroom 2-bathroom house. I'm not sure whether that's typical for New Zealand. Probably the regular houses are a little bit bigger, because often they've also got like guest rooms in their houses. So yeah, that's kind of a thing. But about my trip, yeah, it was awesome. Seriously, New Zealand is a beautiful country. Like I said, I've not been to the South Island, which people say is even better than the North Island, but I must say the North Island was really good. Like I said, I came back last week, so by the time I'm uploading this last week. And yeah, that's April, May, so it was supposed to not be as warm as it was, because of course for them, they are tuning into fall or autumn like they say, I believe. And I am, or at least the northern hemisphere is of course tuning into spring and summer, but they're tuning into winter, so the weather would be worse than I wanted. Well, of course you want like 30 degrees Celsius and sunny. Well, that's of course not what it was, but it was like 23, 25. Well, it was supposed to be 18, so it was much better than it should be. They were like breaking records and stuff, which was awesome, because Dutch people really care about the weather. I think everyone cares about the weather, but Dutch people can really care a lot about the weather and also talk about it a lot. I noticed that I've been talking about the weather a lot in this video already as well, so I'll stop about that right now. But seriously, yeah, Auckland is a really cool city because if the weather is good, it's the vibe is just really nice in my opinion. Not everyone, yeah, I read some comments or just some stories about Auckland which were not that positive, saying that it was kind of boring, and I can imagine that if you really want to see like a lot of crazy things, it might not be the best city to go to, but if you want to just have a nice city to hang out, I mean, I wouldn't go to Auckland for a city trip, especially if you have to travel as long to it as I did, 26 hours in total, which I'll talk about later on as well. But it is a nice city to visit if you're there, and you should definitely not skip it. I went to Rangaitoto, which is like a volcanic island in the harbor of Auckland. I did the Skywalk, which is a walk around like a circle, or kind of the circuit around the highest building of the southern hemisphere, which is 300 meters tall, I believe, and I walked on 200 meters, so that was pretty cool. And furthermore, I've been to the Silo Park, which Aucklanders or people who've been there will definitely know. It's kind of a hipster place, or at least that's what I found out when I was there. Or at least it's not really a hipster place, but it just has like a really cool vibe, and I really like. It's kind of, in case you don't know, well, probably you don't know because it's not that famous, but it's kind of an old industrial area that has been tuned into a park, and therefore it's really popular because, yeah, many people like to hang out there, especially when the weather is good. And yeah, I really liked how people really use that space as indeed a place to hang out and just enjoy. And I really liked to see that it was that popular. Because I had seen it on Google Maps already, and I thought, that seems kind of like a cool place, but it wasn't that busy. And then I arrived, and there were actually very many people. So then I found out, like, what I thought, I thought it would be a cool place. Well, people indeed find it a cool place. Is that logical? I'm not sure. But anyways, yeah, Auckland was fun. Went to some cool beaches in the surroundings as well. Went to Mission Bay, which was like, is really calm if you compare it to the rest of Auckland, which is actually really calm as well, but of course it's a big city, so a big city is always more busy than just a little village. But Mission Bay is only a 10-minute bus drive or something, and it's really calm. You don't notice that you're so close to the city. Furthermore, I went to Cathedral Cove, which is pretty cool, and I did a cool wall jump over there as well. You can see that on my Instagram. And wanted to go to Hotwater Beach. Is it that what you call it? Yes, it is. But it wasn't the right tide, because in New Zealand you've got like crazy tide going on, so it didn't work out that well. I also went to Rotorua, which is like a place with hot springs and geysers and crazy stuff. Look at my Instagram to see some crazy pictures of that, of like crazy colored yellow lakes kind of. It's really strange. Look at my Instagram, because I've said it 1,000 times, but seriously, it's hard to explain. It's just craziness. But yeah, also what I wanted to say about the trip, because often, especially people from Europe, when you say that you're going to New Zealand, they're like, man, that's far away, and that trip is gonna be horrible. And therefore you're kind of being scared for the trip. And I must say, I really like flying. I'm kind of into flying in airplanes, and I like following them on like Flightradar. And I, like to read about airlines and flying, and I've flown quite a lot already in my life, so I've got some experience. So I don't find flying horrible, and I actually thought, flying would be pretty cool, especially since I was flying Emirates, which is like, I heard, a really good company or airline, and when I flew with them, I realized that indeed they are really good, because I've just simply flew economy, because flying first or business to New Zealand is way too expensive. That's like 10 times the cost of a regular ticket, and a regular ticket is already way too expensive. It was definitely worth it, but it's still really expensive. But what did I want to say? But still, Emirates is really like a nice company or airline, because they've got like those huge A380 planes, which I've never been on before. They're the biggest passenger planes in the world, 500 people stacked in one place, but it's like 2 levels and stuff. Awesome. Then yeah, the seats were actually much wider than normal seats. You had more leg room than regular, and since I'm pretty tall, 1 meter 90, I believe, 90, 88, 90, something like that. I don't exactly know, but yeah, Dutch people are tall, so I'm kind of tall. But therefore, extra leg room is always a good thing to have, and you get like good. What do you call that? Like actual metal forks and knives and stuff instead of those plastic stuff. The food was good, and also yeah, it was the longest flight in the world. Back from Auckland to Dubai, that flight was 17 hours and 50 minutes straight. So no stop, nothing, no refueling, just straight, and that's the longest flight in the world. So that was kind of tiring. But what I want to say, or what kind of point I want to make here, is that if you kind of plan a trip of 1 hour and then you've got to make a trip of 27 hours, it's going to be really hard, because then it's really going to get a struggle to get through it, and it's just going to be tough. But if you prepare yourself and you know, I'm going to be flying for 26 hours, it's not really a problem. You just have to sit in a seat and that's it. It's not really that hard. You just have to watch 1,000 movies. Well, that's not a bad thing to do, in my opinion. So therefore, I did not really find the trip the reason not to go. And therefore, New Zealand really is awesome. So it's definitely not a reason not to go. So if you are thinking of going somewhere far away, the trip or the airplane flight shouldn't be the reason for you not to go. Also, if you're afraid of flying, well, yeah, I can't help you here, because I'm definitely not afraid of flying, but I'm not someone who can, talk you off that. But remember, always think of the fact that right now, while you're watching this video, there are 10,000 planes in the air. And now I think like 100 more have landed and taken off. So there's so many planes, moving all the time, that it really is safe. And every now and then there's an accident, but do you know how many road accidents there are daily? Well, I don't know any numbers, but it's a lot. And if you compare it to airplane or airfare, it really is a lot more, and airfare is just a lot safer. So, don't worry about that. Don't let that be the reason not to go there. But yeah, by the way, here I'm currently doing the interior of the house. I think it's kind of accurate, but of course, New Zealand, it does not have such a traditional kind of house like, for instance, Cambodia has, which is very typical, or what. Especially interiors are often really hard, but, in houses which have a little bit of a more typical style, it's easier. But in this case, New Zealand is really Western-like. So just like with an American house, it was really hard to make a typical interior for that. I think for a Dutch house it would be hard as well, because we're kind of like modern and stuff as well. But I did my best, and I just decided to make the rooms look nice and kind of, yeah, still kind of Western, because that's in the end what New Zealand is. It's not as organized as Holland, even though I had expected it to be kind of organized. It is organized, but if you compare it to the Netherlands, which I come from, which is really, really organized, it still is not. But I think it's really hard to find a country which is as organized as the Netherlands. And I think that's even impossible, because we really are organized with stuff. But yeah, it's really hard, because I can talk about my trip for like 40 minutes. This video is only like 16 minutes, so that's kind of the problem. I'm about to tune out now, so if you want to hear more of my stories, please let me know, because then I might actually make a separate video of it, because I've made some videos as well, some time lapses and stuff, or maybe I'll talk about it more in other videos. Don't forget to check out my Instagram, because I'll keep posting some video or some cool photos which I've taken on there. And then, yeah, I hope you enjoyed watching this video. You can download it from the gallery, look for Origin ID Dutch Sims Master, and then I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope to see you in the next one.
When you want to get off the darkest ground, but gravity pulls you straight down. Earth from a bird's eye view, you should grow feathers and see this too.